Hey, what's going on today, YouTube? Today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about why you should enjoy the language learning process. And I'm going to be trying to do this again in one cut. I don't want to be making as many cuts because it takes time to edit. So let's just go ahead and jump into why I've been feeling this way, or just kind of why I want to talk about it. So recently, I've picked up reading manga again. And so I had started reading manga in the beginning of my studies, but found it a little bit too hard. So now that I'm a little bit more advanced in the language, I don't know what level I'm actually at, I started rereading manga again, and I found it to be extraordinarily compelling. And so, what is compelling? Something that allows you to, well, first of all, Stephen Krashen has this thing called the input hypothesis, and the most compelling input, the best input is compelling input that allows you to be drawn into where you don't even realize that the content you're consuming is in another language. And so that is compelling input. So I had a little bit of an experience with that while I was reading a manga recently, and because the input was compelling, I was able to read 197 chapters in 2 weeks. And if you're used to reading manga, chapters aren't really that long, so it's not that crazy, but each chapter has around 20 pages, pictures. And so I found the input really compelling for me, which allowed me to consume a ton of Japanese. And so, even though it's still manga and you're consuming content fast, in my case, I was consuming it pretty quick, I still spent a solid 50 plus hours consuming manga over these past couple of weeks. And, I didn't even realize that, how fast I was consuming the content. I just woke up the next day and was like, oh dang, I'm like 20 new chapters in. That's been one of my first compelling, input experiences that I've had, and I just kind of wanted to speak to it. It's a fantastic feeling to kind of have. And of course, when you're starting off in the language, it's a little bit harder to have that, but it will happen eventually. And you want to get to the point to where you can eventually consume media or stuff that is compelling to you. And that's different for everyone. There is no secret sauce or formula for it, but there are ways to kind of find input that is compelling. And so the way that I tend to get compelling input, or try to get compelling input, is I'm a big anime fan, and so that's one of the main factors for me going ahead and learning Japanese. So right now, anime is being released, and sometimes anime takes really long to release. And since I'm focusing on a reading-centric way of going about learning Japanese at the current moment, what I like to do is watch an anime. I can watch it with English subs, whatever, but if I really like the anime and I want to continue on reading the story, I will finish up the anime or to the most recent episode, and then just pick up from the either manga or light novel from there. Manga is much easier than light novel. I'm trying to read a light novel right now, and it is much more of a struggle than manga, because you're trying to digest the story with words alone. So I recommend, if you're just getting into it, you start with manga. Manga is going to be way easier to digest, and you will be able to search things up a little bit easier because most manga has furigana with it. So you can just search up on Jisho the definitions. That's the way that I like to find input. It makes it a little bit easy, and just go from there. So that's how I recently found my compelling input for these past couple of weeks, and it was a profound experience, so to speak. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit on the experience that I had. The content that you should be consuming, you should be enjoying the language learning process. The language learning process is a long-term process, and it's not something that you're going to be doing for 1 year and then you're a pro. A lot of these people who do learn Japanese to a high level in 1 year, most of them, I believe all of them that I've seen continue using Japanese throughout, after that year. So it's not just 1 year you're an expert, it's 1 year but you're continuing to grow. And so that is why I like to call it the language journey, because it's a journey, and there's really no end to it. There are goals you can set, but there's no end to the language journey, as you can always improve and increase your ability in the language. So enjoy the language learning process. Don't find yourself doing needless grammar exercises or drills, or just consuming content because you think it's going to be good for you. In the long run, the content that is boring is the most detrimental, because you won't be motivated by that content and you'll just drop the language. And that is the experience that I have had. This isn't the first time I've tried learning Japanese. I did try learning Japanese, way back farther, probably high school, maybe. And that was before I knew about, the whole immersion stuff, anime, watch anime, learn Japanese, stuff like that. But that's all I wanted to talk about today. And look forward to the future videos. I plan on doing a 2-year progress video of speaking Japanese. And that's it for today. Good luck in your studies out there, and I'll see you again in a future video.